Somebody's talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to call a meeting to order. You guys do that invocation. Call that pledge.
Let us pray. Most loving and gracious Father, we give you thanks for all your blessings and for our little piece of paradise, which we call Mexico Beach. We ask for your guidance upon our leadership, our city council, and for our employees as well. Guide us to do your will, to do what is beneficial for this city. We also pray, Father, that we know that we may have disagreements. Let us disagree in the spirit of love and the bond of unity. And lest we forget, oh Heavenly Father, let us remember our veterans, those that are here with us this day, those that have gone before us. It is because of them, Father, that we enjoy our freedoms to live here in Mexico Beach, and freedoms to worship you and to do what is right. And we pray also, Father, that this day you bless them, you bless our people in leadership here, and you bless all the employees in Mexico Beach. And this I pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father. Can we take the roll, please?
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mayor Wolf?
Here.
And Mr. Linderman is absent today.
All right, first thing on the agenda is consent agenda for minutes for September the 10th, September the 16th, the 24th, and the 25th. Everybody's read through them. Any questions or any changes or comments? If not, anybody accept it?
Yeah.
Yayers and nays.
Yeah.
Minutes are good? We're going to move on to special appearance. First one is Gladys, you here? You're not here? No? Do we have any comments on the, from the city administrator on the Christmas break?
Absolutely. Let me pull it up. I was expecting her here.
I think she wanted to share like their Facebook, they got a new Facebook page
Yeah.
for the parade, just remind everybody about it. Hang on just a second, I'll find it. It's Mexico Beach Tree Lighting and Golf Cart Parade. They have their own website, so, or Facebook page, so that's where they'll be posting all of the information. You can get the applications for the golf cart parade either at City Hall or at the CDC. And you can always get in contact with Tracy Gaddis if you have any questions. But it is Sunday, December 1st. They're going to start staging at 5 p.m. The parade will start at 5:30, and they'll be at Under the Palms Park.
Okay, can we link that to our Facebook or our website and then just put it out? To her?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And there is a, thank you for that, I just finally got it pulled up here. There is a waiver to sign for all participants. And we'll make sure that that is linked as well.
Okay. Any comments from the audience on the parade or anything? No, we're good. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the LDR presentation. Before we get into that, Laura, just have a seat. Before we get into that, I just want to update our citizens as to where I understand this council to be on this subject. because we've been working on this since the budget. So when we started our 24-25 budget, the prior city administrator allotted $125,000 for adjustments to our comp plan and LDR. The council agreed that it was too high and that they wanted different involvement other than just one company looking at it and telling us what to do. So understanding that our citizens need to be involved in this, our council needs to be involved in this, and our planning and zoning needs to be involved in this, we reduced that to $50,000. Would we spend that $50,000? I don't know. Maybe not, because we're going to utilize P&Z, we're going to utilize the council, we're going to utilize the citizens. That was our plan. Last meeting, I think I talked a little bit about that, but maybe not as in-depth as maybe I should have. But I can tell you that we have awarded nothing to anybody. Allura is a company, is a subcontractor for us, and we use her as we need her. And that's not changing. We talked to her about ordinances before, and she bills us by the hour. And that's the way it is. There's no awarding on this that I know of. I don't think any council member knows of any awarding of this job. So that's where we stand. Our suggestion as a council was to go ahead and discuss this, come up with, we asked Laura to bring back some of the things that she thinks we need to look at. Those items will be added to a list. In the next 2 weeks, I've talked to the city administrator personally, and I said that I want him to talk to each of the council people in the next 2 weeks and put together their thoughts on the LDR and what things they think need to be brought up. So now we add that to Alora's list. We have 2. From there, we're going to move it to the planning and zoning and have them get their input. So now we have a collection of 3 different sources, and we're going to add a 4th source being the citizens when we do a workshop. From there, we'll decide whether we want to put a committee together or move to the council. Most likely, we'll put a committee together. We've been successful at that with our charter and did a good job. I think that, heck, I got 4 or 5 emails. We could probably add those 4 or 5 people that are so concerned and get a committee put together and get this resolved and back to the council for approval. That was the process I understood, and I think the council understood. Is that true? Okay. So now that we've done that, I'd like to go ahead and start with Laura, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Good morning. Alara Mills-Gutcher with the Planning Collaborative, and I'm here to talk today about some of the things that I've noticed in the Land Development Code that could use some updating, amending, tweaking throughout the time that I've been working with you all. If we can go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to start quickly and talk about why do we adopt land development regulations. And if I say land development regulations, LDRs or LDC, those are interchangeable. They mean the same document. And Florida statutes in 163.3202 talks about the land development regulations and what is required to be inside of them. And the list on the left-hand side is what is listed in that statute. So we're supposed to talk about the subdivision of land, the use of land and water according to our future land uses, which are adopted into our comprehensive plan. We're supposed to ensure compatibility between uses, provide open space, protect potable water wells, regulate areas that flood, which I think we do pretty well with our flood ordinance, provide for stormwater, ensure protection of environmentally sensitive areas, regulate signage, and ensure safe and convenient traffic flow. So when we adopt or update our land development regulations, we need to be sure that they are consistent with our comprehensive plan, because if you know the hierarchy of things, the comprehensive plan is the guiding document for everything else that happens growth management wise inside of the city. So as we're looking at the LDRs and the LDC and looking at what language needs to be changed, whatever we do there, we need to be sure that it's consistent and not conflicting with the comprehensive plan and Florida statutes, and any other regulatory body that the state has. So as you may be aware, Florida is a home rule state, so we get to adopt what kind of regulation we want to adopt unless the state legislature tells us we can't. Those are called preemptions in a home rule state, and those have been happening on a pretty regular basis over the last 3 and 4 years. So we just need to be sure that whatever we're looking at regulating, the state hasn't preempted us in Florida statutes. Some of that includes short-term rentals. Some of that includes affordable housing that they preempted us on. And it looks like in this forthcoming legislature, there might be some bills popping up that talk about minimum lot sizes and what we can and can't do there. Just so you know, I am on the Legislative Policy Committee for Florida APA, so I'm in tune to what's going on there. I'm the chair of the committee. So as bills come forward each session in the legislature, if they are related to land use, they will cross my desk. So then from there, the statutes talk about the local planning agency and what that means to us. We call it the P&Z board. Some places call it the planning commission. Some places call it the planning board. We call it the planning and zoning board. They are required to hear any changes to the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations and make a recommendation to you as to the consistency with that change to the internal consistency of the comprehensive plan, and if it's an LDR change, to the consistency of the comprehensive plan. Those are their 2 primary tasks. They also are allowed to have duties that you assign to them as you see fit. So they look at variances, and there's other duties that you've asked them to look at. Next slide, please. So based on that last list that you saw, I went through and did a quick evaluation. I didn't do an in-depth study, but I did a quick evaluation of whether or not what we have in our LDC meets the requirements of Florida statute. So I did that by check mark means yes, it meets the requirements. The exclamation says, we probably need to look at that. We need to tweak it. It's not it may barely meet or it may not meet completely, so we need to look at that, how we've got that in our land development code. And the X means we're not addressing it at all. So we do address the subdivision of land, but I would submit not very well. We do have a couple of regulations in there that talk about lot splits, but we don't talk about the subdivision plat process at all. So as we're going through and we receive applications for subdivision plats, it's really not something that we have the ability to review against because we don't have that process in the LDC. There should be a preliminary plat process and a final plat process, and so as that goes through, how we handle that as a city and how that's reviewed is missing from our LDC. The use of land and water in relation to the future land use categories, we have that, of course, with our implementation of zoning. So all of our zoning is implemented as a district that will further the comprehensive plan future land use categories. So we do that pretty well. Stormwater management is something that may need updating. The code hasn't been updated in a while, and things change through statutes and other regulatory agencies that we need to compare against. I'm not a stormwater engineer, so this is something I would likely look to Anchor to helping us with, because I don't have that technical knowledge of, there are water management district requirements, there's DEP requirements, there's the ERP, and I'm just not as well versed in those because that's not my realm, so we would want to get an engineer to look at that. And then the provision of open space. We don't mention open space requirements in our code, so we would need to look at that and adopt minimum open space requirements. Next page, please. Ensure the compatibility of adjacent uses. So we have this table in section 4.01.06 that talks about whether or not a land use or a zoning district is compatible adjacent to another. But this doesn't really solve the question. You see that, for example, residential low density is considered incompatible next to general commercial. But we have that. We have them adjacent to each other in Mexico Beach. So does that mean that we shouldn't allow them to be next to each other? I don't think so, but we do need to address how to make them compatible next to each other. So if residential low density is next to general commercial, how can we make that mitigate those differing uses next to each other, such as additional setbacks, such as additional buffering, such as potentially height limits when you're adjacent to a single family home and now you're general commercial and you can go 4 stories. Is there a somehow we need to tier that when we're adjacent to each other? Hours of operation are sometimes an issue that codes will address, so that if you have a general commercial use and it's a bar and it's open till 2 in the morning, is that going to affect the neighbor next door in the residential low density with some sort of noise? So those kinds of things are missing from our code. We don't address compatibility, and we need to do that. Next slide, please. The others regulate the areas that flood, which we do really well. That happened after Hurricane Michael when we updated the floodplain ordinance, the flood ordinance. The ensure protection of environmentally insensitive areas, we do that. We talk about wetlands, and we have a restricted development zone. The regulation of signage needs updating. Back in 2015, there was a Supreme Court case called Reed versus Gilbert that tells us now that we can't address the content of a sign because that would be freedom of speech. We can address where it's located, we can address height, we can address size, we can address all kinds of things, but we can't address the content. So we need to update that. We can't, when we're talking about political signs, that's content. So we can address the snipe sign itself, but we can't address the content of the sign. So we need to look at our signage section of the code and update it accordingly to make sure that we are not regulating content. An off-premise sign would be considered content because it has to deal with the content of the sign rather than the size, the location. So what we could say is you only get 1 sign per property in a commercial area, so that would help prevent maybe off-premise signs if you're trying to advertise something that's not on that piece of property. Ensure safe and convenient traffic flow, we address that in Article 6, and protection of potable water wells we do address in Section 4.04.01. Some other observations, these are just some things that we've noticed throughout the years and that need to be looked at a little closer. We keep, for example, the development order process. It's a little cumbersome, just to streamline that and make sure it's easy for everybody to understand. Same with the site plan review. And this has to do also with subdivision plats, but site plan review is usually for something that's not a subdivision of land, so some sort of commercial request. Food truck language we've talked about over the years, and we haven't ever really gotten to it, and how to permit those, where to permit those, what kind of amenities they may need if they do set up, if they're permanent, if they're not permanent. We need more clarity there. Some administrative review procedures, we need to review those. You might want to allow more administrative review so that so much doesn't come to council. If it's something small or a smaller threshold, it's something that can be reviewed administratively. And as long as it meets the requirements of the code, it's good to go. It can be signed off on. Update references throughout the code. There's some old references in there that we need to update. We do exclude specifically junkyards, which we can't. We can't be exclusive. We have to allow them somewhere. So we have to address those things that are excluded uses within the land development code. You have some special master language. I don't know if you've used that since I've been here. Do you use a magistrate? We need to examine whether or not that needs to stay or be evaluated for another process. Any new community goals that we discover through the committee process and development agreement process and procedures, which are located in Florida statutes, but the statutes also recommend that the local government adopts those. And I just want to be clear also, I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's not my job. My job is to listen and understand what is the intent of the city and put that into the regulatory language, which is, this is a legal document and it needs to be defensible by your attorney. So we need to make sure that however it ends up, that we do have a legally defensible document. And with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Go ahead and start with the audience.
Sure.
Anybody in the audience? Come on up.
Jim Bush, 130 Palm Street. And I guess my questions are more for the council than for Ms. Gutcher. Has the state commented or informed you of in any way that the shortcomings that she's identified in the LDR are a problem with them?
Not that I know of.
Well, then one would assume that although there are shortcomings, the state doesn't have a problem with them, or they would have identified them to you and informed you.
Not necessarily.
The state doesn't
Yeah.
review land development regulations. We don't send them over to the state. It's primarily a local government decision.
So if the LDC does not conform with state statutes, how does the state ensure that they do conform?
They don't.
So they don't care?
They review the comprehensive plan. They don't review the land development regulations.
Okay, and that brings up my next question then. It's been 6 years since the comp plan has been approved by the council. What changes have been made to the comp plan and what reviews have been done to the comp plan in the last 6 years?
We haven't made any changes at all.
No, we haven't made any changes, and to my understanding, how we got here is we updated the comp plan in 17 and 18. You were on the P&Z. So we updated the comp plan, and we never really updated the LDR. A few little updates. So it was brought to our attention. Now, nobody's mandating that we update the LDR.
No
But it's
offense,
brought to
no,
our attention that the LDR should have been updated after the comp plan, 100%. So that's how we got to this.
no offense, but the LDR was upgraded in 2018 after the comp plan was approved.
Yeah,
Ms.
and it was
Gutcher?
also updated in 2022 to a brief, but there's things in the LDR that aren't flowing. There's things in the LDR that need to be addressed for our benefit.
Okay, well, I would argue that the money that has been laid aside for updates of whatever documents are concerned would first of all be better spent on making a comprehensive master plan, which I would argue should be driving the comp plan and the LDR. Because what are we going to be as a city? You know, right now it's unknown because the things that were brought up in the comp plan back in 2016, I would argue no longer apply because they're not being implemented in development of the LDR. So I would think that money could be better spent on updating the comp plan and then update the LDR based on the updates to the comp plan, or developing a master growth plan, which members of the audience and I have been asking the city council to do for 4 years and we still haven't done. And I would argue that should drive everything else. What are we going to be and how are we going to expand? I think that's a key issue.
Yeah, and another way, I'll just explain it to you. I'm new, 6 months. But this was brought to, Chris Hubbard was here, and when it got to us, he asked, how much is this update gonna cost? Originally, that was where this estimate of 125 came from. That's where we got that number. And we went to the budgetary committee, we went here as a committee, and we said, can we reduce that? We were trying to shrink the budget, so we put in 50. We haven't authorized anything, and at that time, we said, just like Mayor Wolf said, we were going to, the citizens are definitely involved. The P&Zs, everybody is involved. Wasn't a just take her opinion on everything. And I do feel like that we need a professional to help us get through this. Now, it's not my decision, it's the council and the citizens. We talked about this at the last meeting. The comp plan is coming back up for review by 26. Is that correct?
Every 10 years.
So
Seven.
it's
Is it 7?
it's got to be addressed again. From what we felt that we needed to clean, because there are, if you're at City Hall or deal with the building department, there are things in the LDR that this is what guides people to do stuff, and there's some confusing things.
And one of the things we talked about last meeting was, once we're into the LDR, can we dip back into the comp plan? And that answer was yes.
Okay. I would argue the comp plan should preempt anything done on the LDR, because the comp plan is supposed to drive the
Yes.
LDR. Now, I would like to give kudos to the council on involving the P&Z and the citizens in development of both documents, because former councils, for the most part, did not. And I think you guys are really on the right track for that. That's kind of where I stand. I think the money could be better spent on other projects. Any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you.
Can I make a clarification?
Sure.
The reason why your land development code says it's last updated in 2020, 2022 was because that's when the townhome district was adopted. So there wasn't a full overhaul or any comprehensive amendment. It was just because of the townhome district that was added to the zoning categories. And that's why your code says
Yeah, I wondered
that.
why it says, because it's never really been thoroughly gone
Correct.
through.
Since I've been here.
No.
We're basically, Laura, we're not in sync with what we're supposed to be doing, because the LDR was reviewed over 6 years ago. And should have been, or the comp plan was reviewed over 6 years ago. So the LDR should have been done within a year. Is that
That's
true?
correct. So when you receive your notice from the state that your comprehensive plan is in compliance, according to state review, you have 12 months to update your land development regulations. But as you recall, we adopted our comprehensive plan in February of 2019, and it was not a priority at that time to turn around and update the LDRs because you were in recovery and restoration mode after Hurricane Michael. So
Right.
that project got put to the side.
Okay, so based on our last meeting, the way that I understood it and I wrote down was that we were gonna go ahead and look at the LDR, but we all had concerns to be able to go back to the comp plan and make a quick change if needed.
Yeah, and I don't, I need to figure out what the concern is with the plan, because we can do things outside of what the comprehensive plan tells us in the LDRs. We just have to make sure we remain consistent. So if we want to create an overlay zone that protects something or some sort of feature in the city, we can do that in the LDRs, and I submit that's where we should do it, because that's where the rubber hits the road on how things are developed. The comprehensive plan, as long as it's not contrary to whatever the plan policy says, we can initiate new measures in the land development regulations.
Okay, thank you. Anything else in the audience? Anybody? Okay. Good?
Rock Creek, MB. I just want to say that how you laid it out is exactly how it should be. So I think you understand what needs to be done, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's the way the council discussed it from the time of the budget. Maybe we didn't communicate well, we should have. With that said, anything else at the table before we move forward on this?
I would just want to ask, and it doesn't have to be said here from Laura, you know, these numbers were thrown out there. I guess we need to start getting that path of what's the financial cost going to be for Laura to be involved in this, to what level. I mean, like I said, I think we need professional guidance. I think we're all, between the citizens and the P&Z, but we need somebody that's there. But we haven't, that's kind of like, we haven't figured that out. I mean, we had this number she told a previous administrator. We budgeted 50. How are we going to move forward
It's gonna be
with
based,
her in this process?
it's gonna be based on an hourly rate,
I mean,
and that's good.
she has to be. I mean,
Certainly can. It can be a lump sum or it can be hourly, however you want to do it.
I would suggest that we use an hourly rate that we have already that's given to us, and then if we need her in P&Z requests that she goes, but we have a leader of P&Z that's conducting the meeting. And we did this with the, if everybody remembers, we did this with the charter, and it worked very well.
Yeah, I just knew when we did the previous comp plan, it was very intense and there was a lot of time involved in it. So just so we know that as a council. I I mean, it took a lot of process, and it was good. I mean, we went through line items, and, you know, went through everything. So, and that's the way I feel like the LDR needs to be handled. I mean, we need to go, if we're gonna go through it, we need to go through it and get it caught up too. And as far as making adjustments, you know, I don't know how we fit some of the comp stuff, like, I know we're 2 years out now on the comp. It's almost like we'll finish this and then we're gonna go right back into a comp plan, you know. And I know some citizens have said that they want some more language things in the comp plan of how our city is, where we're moving with it.
And that can happen at any time. So the 7-year period is when you're evaluating your comprehensive plan against any changes in Florida statute that happened over the last 7 years to make sure that your plan is still consistent with Florida statutes. You can change your plan at any time. There's no limit on how many times you can do it per year. There used to be, but not anymore. So if you want some new policies in the comprehensive plan, you can do that now. It's the 7-year period is to review against Florida statutes to see whether or not Florida statutes, the legislation, changed something so that now you're not in compliance with Florida statutes, because it's a hierarchy. There's the Florida statutes, the comprehensive plan has to be consistent with the Florida statutes, and the LDRs have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
So what would you recommend? Because obviously it's the desire of the council and the citizens to look at the comp plan. Should we do them both
I think
at the same, or should we just get through this and start looking at that as we're getting through it and making notes, or what is that path?
So I think that if we, as we go through this process, if there's something that is said, that there's an intent, there's a will, there's a goal, and it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan, I would say, hey, this isn't consistent. You might want to consider changing this goal or this objective or this policy in your comprehensive plan to match what you're trying to do now.
Okay, if we give you an outline, a schedule, I could work with the city administrator on one, of how many meetings we would have, basic hours, fluctuation hours. Could you quote it for us?
Yes, just to put that into perspective, and as we went, as Mr. Adams is recalling, as we went through the comprehensive plan, we started that, and I think June was our first meeting in 2017, and it was ready to go to City Council in September of 2018, and then the storm hit. So that's why it was a delay to the City Council until February 2019. So it took us about 15 months. You know, he remembers very correctly. It was a very comprehensive line-by-line situation that we went through when we were updating that comprehensive plan.
Okay. All right, as a consultant, we're gonna go ahead and put together some hours, suggested hours, and maybe look at a lump sum versus an hourly, but we'll bring that back to the council.
And if I think that there's some things that we need to address sooner rather than later, and one of those is the subdivision regulation process.
Yeah,
So,
not to interrupt you a little. Now, if we're asking, I mean, I do think is, once again, we need to start moving forward. I mean, I hate to kick the ball down the road another month or whatever. I mean, she was looking for guidance. Are we ready to tackle this now? I mean, Chris, are you?
The mayor and I have had a couple conversations. From my perspective, I think the thing to start with would be, let's figure out scope. So that would involve getting input from planning and zoning, that would involve getting input from residents, from the council, about things that we all currently know need to be touched or addressed or changed. Once we have a better idea of what that scope would be, then that's something that we can hopefully present to Alara to say, hey, these are the things that we're looking at addressing. What does that look like? How much time do we need? What kind of meetings would those involve? That sort of thing. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, we have points that we all know need to be touched on, but this was about a complete update going through this. I'm just talking out loud. I don't know if we need to just, because if we go through it line by line, then we know we've hit everything. I mean, we need to have the list of what is causing us, or can cause us litigation or problems or anything like that, which there's multiples. So, I mean, just just
Yeah.
talking out loud about it, I mean, I think we still need, I don't really know if we need to just hit points. I mean, we need to get that scope of those ones we want
Yeah.
or know about, but we still need to go through the
And
thing.
just as an example, there are things in the code that are not just in one place. For example, our setbacks. We have setbacks in our zoning district table, and then we have a setback section. So we need to make sure those things are addressing each other, so that when we have a setback section in 2.2.07, it's the same intent as what's in our zoning code table, which it's not necessarily. So those are the things that if you're touching one thing, it might be other places peppered throughout the code. So we need to make sure we're looking at all of it and not just one section.
One of the things that we've been good at, and on me also as a council member and as the mayor, is that we haven't done a good job at, when we hand something off to P&Z, that's what we do. We hand it off. There's no instructions, there's no goals. I mean, that's what I've seen. I mean, sorry about being blunt, but
Well, let me,
so I'm thinking that if we can take a few of these items, in the next 2 weeks, get stuff to Chris from the council of what you see, we can at least hand that off to P&Z and say, here's 7 things that we've looked at, can you add to it, or suggest deleting from, or whatever, get to the next steps. I mean, it has to be a process, and I don't think it has been.
yeah, but even this, like here, she even brought up on her PowerPoint, this incompatible district. Well, she said, like, it's all over. It's actually under the landscape code, this buffer zone. It says, any parcels that are incompatible with each other shall have a buffer. The buffer strip shall be at least 10 foot along the property line, and it says what you can do to make that buffer. But when I read this, that automatically puts you at a 10-foot setback. If you're non-compatible to that other one, that automatically, it's not in the setback code, it's in the landscape code. People don't know that.
It should be.
It should be. People should be able to go and say, in your setbacks, if you're general commercial and you've got residential next to it, you gotta know that that side setback has gotta be 10,
Correct.
a buffer. But stuff like that, and you'd have to go through it to find that. I just happen to, I have to do it, so.
Your LDC is a working document. It's a living document. And you're never going to be 100% complete on an LDC, because you're always gonna have issues come up that are not dealt with in even the total revision of the LDC. So you need to remember, this isn't a one-time deal.
No, it's not, but it's been so long, there's a lot more pockets of stuff than we really realize. It's my opinion.
So is a suggestion at the table good to go ahead and move forward with getting a list of concerns or observations that we may have from the table? Get those to Chris, take what observations that Alora has put in, get those together and pass that on along with doing a value. I'll start working on a schedule of what that looks like, so we can get a roundabout number rather than being hour, whether we want to go hourly or a lump sum.
Yeah, because that's why we're here, is to start this contract. Alora's agreed to do hourly or lump sum. We know she's on board. I didn't know until today. She might have said, I'm sure she would be on board, but we don't know that. We got to get that. So she's answered that question, so I'm ready to.
Okay, all right. So that's what we do. I'm going to go ahead and take a question from the back. I'm sorry, but, yes, sir.
Jim Bush, 130 Palm Street again. I have a suggestion for the council. Is the individual charged with leading the development of the last comp plan and would have done the LDR had Michael not hit? I would like to point out that the Planning and Zoning Board at that time, and I'm sure it's probably the same now, has got people that really care about the city and are knowledgeable enough to develop things pretty much on their own once they're told what to do. So I agree with you. And I would think the best way to run it, she was there at every council meeting we had, developing the comp plans, which were 2 a month. I would think it would be sufficient if she were asked to identify what she thinks are shortcomings in the comp plan based on state statutes or anything she thinks, doesn't work. Pass that off to the council. Have the council direct the planning and zoning board to work on it. And then when the planning and zoning board has developed what they think is a fix, pass the draft off to her and let her review the draft. That way she doesn't have to be present, at every meeting. Because I will say, she's gave us some good advice, but she didn't have to be there for every single meeting. And I think that would save a lot of money, and that would get the citizens just as involved as they were in the last one. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good with that. So we need to move forward and go from there. Nothing else at the table on that?
Well, since the citizens want to get involved, should we plan to start trying to get some people to be on a committee, and would this be a good time to maybe do that?
What I'm gonna do is work with Chris on a schedule that Laura's gonna bid on, basically. And then from there, I think, once we have the schedule, we can say what dates are available and everything else, and yes, we have to get citizens involved. So it would basically be a workshop first, and then decide whether we wanna go with a committee, which I would probably think we would. So start thinking of people that you may wanna get involved in that, because we'll have each council member select one person.
Or
I don't know,
maybe-
you
I'm
think
thinking
maybe
on
we
the
should do
committee.
two?
I'm thinking maybe in the committee, if people contacted maybe like Julie, somebody in the office, and they have a particular interest in it. I mean, we're getting a lot of emails about it. Those might be some prime candidates, and people that are very knowledgeable and have a history of the LDC and the comp plan. And we have several people in our community that are very knowledgeable of that. So to me, those would be excellent sources for the committee.
I think that's a good suggestion. I agree with that. I mean, if there's people out there that are, and we're saying it over in the video and here in the audience, if you're interested, raise your hand, let Julie know, and then we'll take it from there. But most likely, they'll be picked by one person from each council member. And that'll at least allow us to have some names to look up. Could you post that on the website too, that we're looking for people that are interested?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're good. We got to move on. And we're gonna talk about recycling program with Mr. Brackton. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wolf, City Council. As a follow-up from our meeting in September, I met with Mel, kind of talked about our process of how we're going to do the recycling program, described the equipment that we were using, where we're going to take the recyclable materials, and the pricing. So he was mentioning that at that conclusion of the meeting, he was acceptable to our business plan of how we're going to do it. He was going to recommend to the city attorney to start drafting the franchise agreement. So at that time, I didn't know what that meant. I says, whatever it takes to allow us to do it, please do it. So I left it with that. So, but during September, going into October, we're still talking to the city of the Port of Port St. Joe for at least a couple acres of land. At the beginning of October, we received a draft lease for the 2 acres that we were asking for. So Christian and I reviewed it, signed it, purchased the necessary insurance related to it, sent it back to the Port of St. Joe with an effective date of October 15th. And we thought we had something ready to go. So from October 15th going forward, we started marketing it. We were going to be able to launch the recycling program with shooting for a November date to start collecting. After October 15th, I was trying to follow the Port of St. Joe about where was the execution of the signature. So they came back with some of the questions. So we replied to their questions, kept asking me, and then where's the signed lease? So at the end of October, we received a note from the board chair that they asked us to attend the November 13th port meeting, tomorrow's meeting. So immediately knowing that we were not going to receive a signed lease, which meant I wasn't able to get business licenses, we quickly notified all the customers that the November services was being postponed. So we contacted all those customers, refunded all of the November service charges to all the customers, and told them about we hope to restart later. Toward the end of October 27th, I shared a letter with Chris. We received a letter from the attorney for Gulf County. And in his letter, I shared with our attorney that the initial concern of the letter was that we were in potential risk of violating two ordinances in Gulf County, a business license ordinance and the flow control solid waste ordinance. Being that was already pretty much told from the Port Authority that we were not going to be able to get the lease, we immediately returned all the money. We were not actually doing collection services. We haven't delivered all the recycled bins to the customers. So the risk of us having a violation to the business license ordinance was mitigated because we're not doing business in November, and we returned the money and we didn't deliver bins. Related to the potential risk of violating the flow control of the solid waste ordinance, looking at the state statute of the definition of recyclable materials versus solid waste, concluded that because we're in the recyclable material collection business, that our services were excluded from the flow control ordinance. So addressing those two issues of the county attorney, we've mitigated potential violations of Gulf County's issues. So right now we have a tentative start date for December. I have a meeting tomorrow with the Port of St. Joe to try to answer additional questions that they may have so we can have that resolved. I'm working with Franklin County, the Franklin County Administrator, the Chairman of the Board for Ricky Jones. They're helping me locate some property in Franklin County so we can set up shop in Franklin County if the Port of St. Joe still has reservations about us doing the lease at the Port of St. Joe. Questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You're on a cease and desist from Gulf County?
Cease and desist letter, yes, sir. Not an
Gulf
order.
County.
Gulf County, yes, sir.
What can we do for you?
Do you have land? my issue right now with Gulf County, after completely reviewing the issue with Gulf County has an exclusive solid waste agreement with BCC. Buried in that agreement is BCC is to provide recycling services to the Gulf County residents, unincorporated. The questions that we received from the Port of St. Joe and the comments I'm hearing from the county administrator are very similar. So it's like they're kind of chit-chatting. Whoever's not exactly in favor of us doing it at the port is getting influence or has some influence from someone at the county. So my concern is tomorrow when I go to the port. Yes, sir.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but what can Mexico Beach, I'm not understanding what Mexico Beach, you're dealing with Gulf County, I really don't want to hear about
Yes, sir.
the problems you have with them. I personally, I mean, the council can get some input, but I don't think that, what is it you're looking for from Mexico Beach?
I need commercial property where when I collect all the recyclable materials, where I can put right now 2 or 3 10 by 20 sheds, so I can tilt our recyclable materials, sort them out, and then when I have enough recyclable materials, I put it on a trailer and transfer it to Tallahassee.
Okay, so you're requesting to see if we have any commercial land that we release to you?
Lease deals, yes.
Okay.
And that's what I'm asking Franklin County. They're actually trying to get this going because I have more customers going that way, but I'm not objecting to having an opportunity to have the business set up in Mexico Beach. I just know that it seems like your footprint's a lot smaller.
Do you have any signed up customers for your program in Mexico Beach?
I have 4 signed up customers and I have about 12 waiting to sign up once I get the green light. So which kind of segues over because I was trying to find out what were the signage ordinance so we have yard signs with some of the members of our customers that have asked to put yard signs in the yard, little temporary yard signs. We recycle, we should too. things as temporary signs. So I was trying to understand what was your signage ordinance. So once we go live, some of the customers that were wanting to participate, trying to promote the recycling, and they can put up the signage. So that was the signage ordinance issue question. So right now, once we get the place where we can actually create a physical address, then I can apply for the business license for all the areas that we're serving. And then we can relaunch the sign up and then go for December.
Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and go. Is there any questions from the audience on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question. I just want to inform the council, Jim Bush again, that in 2020, when I was a member of the P&Z, I was requested to go out and identify what commercial property we had left in the city. And at one time, the entire Highway 98 frontage from the bridge down to the canal was identified as commercial property. And it's since gone primarily to low and high density housing. In 2020, there were only 18 commercial pieces of property left. Since that time, I believe 6 have gone to low or high density housing, and 1 has gone to commercial property. So that only leaves 11 or 12 pieces of property left, to my knowledge, that would suit what you're looking for. So that's just a little information.
And I think just talking to Fonda Davis, the landfill director for Franklin County, based on what we're trying to fit as a footprint, a quarter acre happened. Just 2 or 3 sheds to put up so I can separate the materials, get them separated, and then put them on a trailer once a month, once a quarter, and transfer it to Tallahassee for sale, process and sale.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Lisa Logan, I know that Mexico Beach also created an ordinance that we have no third-party trash hauler, so you need to look into that as well.
Anything else?
If the council, just to follow on that, if the council directs that you proceed on it, you would need an amendment to your ordinance and also an actual franchise agreement. So there would be a couple of things required. And just to refresh your recollection, you identified whatever property the city owned. You were required to do that last year. I haven't seen the list, but that list is out there somewhere that may address what he's looking for.
Okay.
So, Mayor, related to your ordinance, and it's just talking to the our attorney because of the state statutes talking about the definition of recyclable materials versus solid waste. So, self-separated recyclable materials from solid waste is not considered solid waste. So that was in our business, our interpretation is that we are in the recyclable material collection business, which is completely separate from solid waste. So, and then the restrictions for counties of less than 100,000, well, population of 100,000, they can go through, not be required to have curbside recycling services, but they can have recycle bins at transfer stations. But they, but still, and then within the recycling business, you have to have cross contaminations of less than 10%. Because if you have cross contaminations of greater than 10%, it's no longer recyclable materials; it's solid waste. So, being that in our model, it's a voluntary basis of having people deposit recycled materials in bins, we'll have almost 100% of recycled materials with no cross contamination. We'll have some incidental cross contaminations. Yes, sir.
Any questions?
I just have one quick one.
Yes, sir.
You're Gulf County. You're not just dealing with the land lease. You have another situation with the contract with BCC.
Yes, sir.
So you've got 2 hurdles in Gulf County to.
Yes, sir. So the issue with Gulf County is unincorporated. We are making a presentation at the end of the month to readdress the issue with Gulf County commissioners, to readdress and reconsider to allow us to provide the recycling services.
And I know we're not Gulf County, but I just think it's an integral part for you to be successful that you
Yes, sir, so that's another metric about us doing the port, because they've taken away about a third of our customer bases. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think, finding the property here is gonna be hard.
yes, sir.
Very, I don't think, I've been sitting here thinking, where this, 2 acres, that's on 15th Street, and for sale, you might find it for sale, but I don't think the city has any.
And for us, we don't have a lot of money, we have a limited amount of startup costs. Unfortunately, Gulf County just ate about $1,000 of my cash on legal fees. So we are looking at a lease so we can actually generate some money and go forward. My goal is to try to launch in December. We've got customers waiting for us to provide recycling services, so once we can get going, I think we can be successful with it, start growing the business like that. We have about 12 in Mexico Beach ready to start recycling. It will continue to grow.
So if your only option were to be able to get land in Franklin County, could you still service Mexico?
Yes, ma'am. I plan on still servicing.
And so if you're in Franklin County, you're already on your way to Tallahassee, so that would be more convenient for you as well. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The city of Mexico Beach used to do recycling basically right off the tennis courts down there. If you remember, they used to have a couple bins down there, I think 2 or 3 bins, and I think they were sorted by plastic, glass, carton, paper, something like that. I think it was only 2 or 3 bins. 3? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, it
Put
will be.
bins in the city?
I'm talking to the city of Port St. Joe, doing something similar, that I first need to be able to execute our business, get some funds coming in, because those bins require me to have a big truck to transfer the bin into the truck. Right now, we're gonna operate with pickup trucks.
So then you can take it outside of the city of Mexico Beach and sort someplace else?
Yes, sir, I will dump it in the truck, take it to our recovery center, dump it, sort it out, queue it up for our future processing to Tallahassee.
Well, okay, I think we heard everybody at the table. I think what we need to do is, number one, see if there's any land available, and really see if we're interested in doing something like that.
So I guess going back to this conversation in September, Mel was going to approach the attorney about doing the franchise agreement to allow us to do it. And I know there's an issue related to the business license, so I don't know what is the status of the franchise agreement to allow us to collect recyclable materials.
Well, let's see if we're gonna do anything first. Let's see if we have land to lease, if we want to lease,
Okay.
which I think that'd be the biggest question, which from my side, I personally don't want it sorted here.
Yes, sir.
That's my opinion.
I think I have land in Franklin County. I've got to catch up with Mr. Marone and Chairman Jeff Jones today. I believe.
So from there, we'll move on to, is there an interest to putting the bins back in that we used to have, and have you take care of that?
I'd be
In that
happy to.
area.
Yes, sir.
So
I've been approached by some property owners about a recycling program. I know we've talked about it, but recently in the last month, I've had a property owner that lives out of state,
Yeah.
show me a facility and some things and talk about it, but I was wanting to let him, I knew he was trying to start up his program, and that would be beneficial if we had somebody that was in the business, so.
Yeah,
There's
and
an
I think
appetite for it.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get some input from Public Works Director Tommy to find out how that system worked. It was pre-storm, so why to go away because it was being abused or whatever, I don't know. But let us get all that information put together. As far as an agreement, we're not gonna do anything until we decide what we're gonna do from this table. From there. So Chris will get ahold of you.
And I think the biggest advantage to having your company would be, it would cut down so much on the tipping fees, because I've been a little bit more conscious about my own trash, and I'm thinking about more than half of it would be recyclable. So that would save the city money, the tipping fees in the long run. So to me, that's a real asset, and one of the reasons why we have chosen to go with your company.
Yes, ma'am, and that's what I was talking with Mel with in September, was one of our goals is to really generate the enthusiasm about recycling. It was providing, because we're gonna collect data every day of what we collected and what we sort out. I collected by weight and volume of what we're collecting, and then once a month report to the municipals, report to the county. The state statute requires us to report to the state once a month.
but at the same time, I can report to the HOAs about what was collected, so. And then coordinating with the solid waste landfill director for these city or counties, basically, I'm showing an X many pounds of cubic feet of recycled materials coming from Mexico Beach. But the landfill director should see the same reflection on his side of so many pounds being reduced on the tipping fee. So it should be double check.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Before we move on, Ms. Gaddis.
Oh, yeah.
She
yeah,
came in, we
absolutely,
might as
yeah.
well get that.
Good point, thank you.
First of all, let me apologize to the mayor and the council and all of you. I'm the caregiver of my mother who's 97 and we had an issue, so I apologize for being late. The reason I asked to be put on the agenda, I wanted to talk to you about our little golf cart parade is not little anymore. So we now have a Facebook account where people can go to it. We used to be the only game in town. When I started this 14 years ago, we were the only golf cart parade. In fact, when I came to the council, they said, "You want to do what?" And I said, "I want to have a Christmas golf cart parade at night." And they said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, with flashing lights." And they said, "No." So we worked on things, and then everybody, we tried it one year, and I would come before the council every year and would get permission to do it, and then it just became a family tradition. So I just wanted to, we've got so many new people, and so they don't know the rules. One of the rules is you can come over from Port St. Joe, you can come over from Beacon Hill, because we have to have the sticker if you're in Mexico Beach and you have a golf cart. But you get a pass for that day. You can come over, you can drive your golf cart, and then drive it back. We also give everyone, after the parade, about an hour or two, socialize, but then you need to get home if you're not street legal. So if at 2 o'clock in the morning you're still driving your golf cart around and think you're in the Christmas parade and they stop you, you're gonna get a ticket. So keep that in mind. It's not a free pass, just woohoo, I get to do this all weekend. The other reason I wanted to speak is because I believe Thanksgiving's the 28th and the parade is the 1st. So we don't have much time there. We're a little over 2 weeks before the parade and I don't have any registration forms filled out. The reason we need the registration forms filled out, it gives Lieutenant Marty and I an idea how big we're gonna be, although quite frankly, that Sunday every year, I'll go to church and when I come out, it's like doubled. But we like to have the registrations filled out and turned back into me. You can get the registration forms at the city, you can get them at the Welcome Center, or you can call me. You also can look on the website, the Mexico Beach Christmas Golf Cart Parade. If you just put that in there, it's going to pop right up. It's on there. The route will be on there. And any questions? Last year it got rainy and St. Joe Beach canceled their golf cart parade. And immediately it spread through Mexico Beach that I had canceled our parade. So if that was to come up this time, that's where you're going to get your information from, is the Facebook page. It'll tell you everything. If it's going to be delayed, if it's going to be canceled. But generally, and this will be the 14th year, we've only had one iffy, and that was last year. And it actually turned out great. We had the fog come in, and it looked kind of snowy, and it was really nice. So anyway, but like I said, we have grown. And so any questions or anything, and please encourage everyone to get the word out. It is early this year. It's always the first Sunday, and the Welcome Center, they set that up. I don't. And I know the 7th of December, they're having in the area, other Christmas golf cart parades, but we need to let our people know ours is the 1st of December. We will line up at 5 o'clock at the 7th Street Park. And at 5:30, we'll begin the parade, and the parade will last about 30 minutes. And so we welcome any golf cart and the low-speed golf cart, which are the street legal ones. We welcome anyone, to come. Some people throw candy, some people dress up. We have had Elvis and Priscilla the last 2 years, which were quite a hit. I don't know if they're coming back again. But we've had people come from the Disney parade down south and come and be in our parade. So it's gotten to be a big deal. It's a big family thing. It's a lot of fun. I know one of the Mexico Beach rental places, Top Notch, is offering a discount if anybody rents one of their golf carts for the parade. They're giving a discount. So anyway, we got a lot of good things going. Everybody is starting to get excited, and actually I'm seeing Christmas lights on Mexico Beach. So it's time, but it's early, so we really need to get the word out there that it's early and that we need to get started. So does anyone have any questions or?
Any questions from the audience? Anything from the table?
Tracy, is there any kind of a fee that they have to pay?
Okay, we do not charge a fee. I'm so glad you mentioned that. We don't charge a fee. Some of the other ones do. In fact, as we were driving off last year, people started handing me money and I said, no, we don't charge for that. And we don't have a contest either. It's just get out there with your family and your friends and your neighbors and decorate and just have a good time. If you feel led to donate something, find your charity that you want and donate it to. The Humane Society in St. Joe's always great. But anyway, no fees, nothing, and you can, like I said, you get that pass so you can come over. But it's just a really, really good time, and it has grown. It is no longer the little Christmas golf cart parade. It's big, it's huge. People are putting big money into decorating the golf carts. So I'd love for you all to come and join us.
Tracy, would it be an option to maybe collect canned goods and we could have like a big barrel or something?
Well, the fire department does, I know they collect toys. Yeah, and a lot of our golf cart people will bring toys and drop them off. So there is that, and I do mention to that. And then we also stop the parade. We have a special little boy that we always visit every year. And so sometimes people send some toys and that for him. But he's a special, neat little guy, so we usually, stop up and see him. But it's just good old Christmas fun time.
Good deal.
So.
Yeah, I just would like for it to be out in the public that Sandy, that we will, I'm hoping that we will collect toys.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That
Yeah,
everybody knows, not just the parade. But,
Right, and I'll bump
we're
that on
talking
my
about-
Facebook thing and say, don't forget about the toys and that. And there'll be a place, Sandy, will it be down there at the
Yeah,
Parker Park?
the guys will be there at the Parker Park, the utility truck will be there, the toys will be put in the back of the utility
Yeah.
truck while they're sort of out. And then we do our thing on Christmas morning.
Yes, they do. They come
So
around
it's
with
a
a
lot
fire
of fun,
truck.
actually.
So that's a lot of fun too. And
So,
again,
Just when I think about it, just because I have a moment, if you do know of new children in town, make sure that they somehow get their addresses to me at the fire department so we know where they are. Because we don't know where they are, we can't find them. So,
yeah, and
you know,
they
any
pull up in the
ones
fire
across
truck
the-
Christmas
so-
Day with the sirens going and everybody comes out and looks to see what's going on. And then all these little kids just show up and it's always, I think you say, Santa has dropped some toys and they get on the fire truck and the firemen give them toys. It's really neat. It's a cool idea. So anyway, and again, like I said, I am sorry for being late, but sometimes life just gets in the way. But anyway, so come out, support the Christmas Tree Golf Cart Parade, and we'd love to have you. Any questions, like I said, Mexico Beach Christmas Golf Cart Parade on Facebook. You can pull it right up and all the information's there. And if you have a question, just shoot me a message.
Good deal.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate what you do. All right, we're gonna move on to a couple exciting things, really. There's two things on the agenda. One has to do with the boat ramp design, which is hopefully adding another ramp, prettying that up, and making some repairs, and then we're gonna move on to amphitheater design. So we have,
Emily.
we don't have Elizabeth here.
couldn't be here today. She wanted to be, so I'm here in her place.
So Emily, okay, we're ready to go.
So in front of you, you have 3 layouts for the boat ramp. We had previously discussed some layouts, and the original design was by Dewberry. It was 3 additions to the ramps. And when we came over the summer and discussed, it was brought before us that maybe 3 additional lanes wasn't what the city wanted. So we put together some really draft layouts, a single lane edition, a double lane edition, and then of course we have the layout that shows the original expansion, which is the 3 lanes. And we put together some cost estimates just to give you an idea of what just the expansion might cost. And so you have those in front of you. And we actually have some FWC reps here today. If we have any specific grant questions. Really what we need is just some direction from the council on, what we want to do. Do you want to stick with the original expansion plans? Do you want to go down to a single lane, a double lane? What would you like to move forward with?
Okay, well, we're gonna go to our citizens first.
Sure.
And answer some questions, and then we're gonna come back to the table. So, yes, sir, come on.
Captain Mitch Coleman, Mexico Beach. I probably use that ramp more than anybody in Mexico Beach. I'm by a wide margin. I've been up here before to talk about this. I'm still contention that single ramp is plenty. I've spoken with the mayor, with Linda and Jason. The times that we would use all of that expansion are maybe 3 days a year. And I've said before, it's not ramp space that we lack, it's access to the ramp space. Because of there's no signage in the yard, or in the parking, obviously it's not paved and lined out. So those are more the challenges, is accessibility to ramp instead of just ramp space itself for vessels. So with that, I would suggest that the single ramp expansion is the way to go. I do have a couple of questions about what you drew up here. One of them is this gangway and a floating dock. What's the thoughts behind a floating dock?
Well, I think that was part of the grant requirement.
Is it? Okay.
Sort of. So FWC funded the design of this project in 2020. It's been reimbursed, and we've moved forward with now awarding 2 grants for the construction of this project. And the language in the agreement between FWC and the City of Mexico Beach states that the design plans funded previously will be used in the construction of the project. And so I'm glad that I'm having a moment to speak, because I think it is really important to recognize that this is a competitive grant program that's funding 91% of the construction of this project. And because it is competitive, I have to, as the program administrator, stay sensitive to the fact that other projects were not awarded in favor of this project. So as we're talking about moving away from the original intent of 2 awards, I have to consider whether the project would have been awarded if it was presented the way that it is today, or the way that it winds up. And there is a possibility that the city loses the grant funding if we move away from the project the way that it was awarded.
Okay.
Can I ask your name?
For the record, I'm Nikki Stricker.
Okay.
I'm the
Thank
Florida Boating Improvement Program Administrator.
Okay.
But to speak specifically to the floating dock, that would be the only dock that's truly accessible for people that have, mobility issues climbing in and out of the boat. And so we've discussed with Emily and I believe with the city about moving away from the floating dock design. It's obviously not the most ideal dock of the 3 to have the floating component. But shy of tearing down another one and making it floating, the program wants to maintain at least one dock that
I think the
is
floating is
accessible.
a good idea, but I would just have this 30-foot gangway floating. Because if you have a 30-foot gangway here, 5 feet, and you have a floating dock that's 6 feet, if the floating dock is moving, the other one's not. Well, that creates a problem with someone that's handicapped.
Well, I think that it will be attached here at the sidewalk, and then it'll change as
Just this end?
the actual dock, when the tides go in and out, it'll change, and so the
gangway does.
the slope of it will change slightly.
The gangway does.
The gangway
Yes,
will,
it's-
so it will slope with,
Yeah,
okay.
it'll be fixed on the actual.
Okay,
And
that was what I was
yeah.
curious about, how you were gonna do that, because I've been running charters for 16 years here, and I've run quite a few handicap.
Okay.
And currently, we have no problems getting them. Well, the most problem is the decking on the existing finger piers needs replacement. Some Trex material would be preferential. But I was just looking, when you come in from approach, you see you have a pinch point here when you come into the canal. And the further out you go here, the more of a pinch point you begin to have. So that was just one consideration as a boater and a user. The other one was this basin area here. I spoke before, this is really important to the boating community and to our tournaments, because when tournament day comes, we've got 120 boats come to weigh in at 5 o'clock. There'll be boats lined up down this promenade. They tie off along here, all along here, and all along here. You don't want to limit this basin. That's why I spoke against the further expansion. It just alleviated all of your accessible space here. So I would stick, this is good design, but I would be concerned somewhat in coming 52 feet out this way. If you could make it a little shorter and still floating.
Right, and that's the problem. The shorter you make the fixed portion and the gangway, then the floating portion can get stuck on debris or whatever that comes up there.
Okay, I don't know the
So-
ergonomics of it, but I understand.
I mean, I'm no engineer,
But that was just some of the things when I first looked at this plan design, I was wondering, again, why the floating dock in addition to a gangway, and then the length of it as well. The other thing that's in the quote is this, right now, I'm taking, right here is where we have our pay to launch, or is it further up there? It's right up here, right? Well, everything's grass back there now. Why would you take it up and put gravel in there?
That's
Just a grassy slope down there, and there's $25,000 worth of gravel.
That's what the original plan showed, but when we go into redesign, it can
Well,
make it
there was
something
three things that I questioned, and that was,
As far as grant funding goes, I'm not gonna give anyone a hard time about that.
We can change that.
I
Yeah.
also, in conversations with Emily, have supported, keeping the seawall and, instead of doing the additional 3 lanes. But my concern is when you start getting into, wanting to use the funding to address parking or, things that are.
no, we don't want to do anything to affect the
related.
funding. I mean, the only thing we're
Yeah.
suggesting as users and as a citizen of Mexico Beach is that I want to see something that, first of all, doesn't hinder what we have already. If we're going to expand it, let's make it expand it without hindering what we already have. Because again, the whole need for another ramp is 3 days a year. And Sandy and his crew come out there those 3 days and make sure, everything looks like West Point parade ground out there. So it's very well organized on those busy days. But again, I would encourage the council and, I would encourage the 1-lane expansion and just search for savings so we can pay that parking lot.
All right,
Well, they could
thank
apply
you.
to the next meeting.
That'll be the next time.
The next grant cycle opens in early February, and y'all can apply for funding for the parking.
Well, we sure appreciate it. I can
Nikki,
tell you,
I
from
didn't
the
get your-
voting community, it's
Nikki.
going to make a wonderful expansion.
Nikki Strickler.
Stricker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That 1 lane coming out is ADA approved, that's what it is, right? Is that correct?
It will be the way we design it, yeah. I mean, it may not be exactly that, you have to consider the height, the current height of that promenade sidewalk and where the actual floating dock would be, and what the slope that would put the gangway at. You can't.
We're just not missing anything that we would not be compliant, we would be.
Right, when we take it into design, we would design it so it was compliant.
Okay.
So in fact, it may make the gangway, 31 feet instead of 30 to make sure we have the length to create the slope, but that gives you a general idea. But that would be sorted out in design to make sure that it is ADA compliant.
Okay, good deal. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir, come on up.
Alex Hogan, I own 17.
Come on up, Alex, come on up. You haven't been here for a while.
That's because you guys are doing such a great job.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Seriously, you are doing a wonderful job, and I'm Alex Hogan Haven. Nice meeting you. I wasn't here, but anyway, I have to really concur with what Mitch is saying. 17 years, he knows what needs to be done here, and so I would hopefully take his recommendation to light, and I'm not much a boater, so I have to rely on people like Mitch, but he has a great recommendation, and I think we ought to go along with it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir. Come on, Rob.
Rock Crease, MB. I agree with what he said, the single ramp. The one question I have, and everybody complains right up here, when you come down, it comes down like this and goes like this and then back down again. They drag their trailers big time. And the whole thing with the design right here was asked, since this came about, to make sure that the added ramp is not like the other ones. It doesn't do that. It comes down, like I said, if you're out there looking right now, it comes down like this, then it goes out and back down, and anybody with a big boat, the 34-footers, their trailer normally drags when it comes down like that. So the ramp should just be on a regular angle. We're just concerned with this here. I mean, when you have the giant tournament, you can always close this ramp off. And that way you wouldn't have any problems with everybody parking along here, you know, with their big boats coming in. Because you were talking about the pinch point right there. But to me, a floating dock, I've had boats from 16 feet to 32 feet. Floating dock is the best thing in the world. But take care of that ramp thing, because that's tearing up everybody's trailers.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? We have to move to the table.
I've got several items.
Okay.
I guess the first one we'll address is the money part. So we had a $950,000 grant, and I know we're putting other money aside to do other repairs. So I go to the original design. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. And I'm seeing a number here of 1.4 million. We went for the grant. I thought when we went to the grant, they've actually had to update it already one time. And I thought the 980, I thought that was to cover the original plan. So I have that question. And I guess it's not in here because I went through these. So this does not include, because I read the Mel had responded when he was here, he had gotten with Nikki, and I read that update from Anchor that FWC was okay with adjusting it to one lane, that part of it, and they were okay with us using some of the funding to fix the other repairs. Well, now I'm looking at a $1.4 million price tag on the original ramp, and that just seems, I don't know where that came about, but we can get to that.
Right.
You know, and I see your other estimates, you know, the single is $729. And obviously the double is, you know, $1.1 million. So.
Well, so what we did is we found some other boat ramp projects locally, Panama City or just anywhere in the Panhandle, and looked at some of those costs per square foot just to get an idea of what they're building at right now. And of course, every project's going to have some variances, but just to get an idea. As far as when it went to 900,000, the grant, that was before we were here, but the bids did come in some cases much higher at 1.4, which is what you saw originally there. I know that the grant was increased at one point because I think it was expected that the bids were just going to be much more than originally expected. So I think it went from about 400,000 to 980.
Right, so the low bid, when the city came back to reapply for additional funding, they had gone out to bid and the low bid was 1.08 million. And so that's what we based our funding off of. So the FBI, the Florida Boating Improvement Program, is funding $986,000 of that $1.08 million project. So if it's increased since 2023, that's not something that I have those.
Prices have sure gone up.
I mean, yeah, but so leading into that, as far as this goes, this is another part of Nikki's statement to Mel. You know, this has got to be completed by June of 26. I'm not saying it can't be, they probably could extend it, whatever. If we decide to change the boat ramp design, you know, Nikki said that it would be, I mean, obviously it's got to be redesigned, and then I don't know how long is FWC going to have it in-house to approve. Obviously y'all got to approve it, so I'm seeing, what I'm saying is I'm seeing time just drifting away here if we change it.
You're right. So, it's a little concerning to me that we we're presented with an application, a shovel-ready application. Obviously, like I said, we had funded the design previously in 2020. So the city came back in 2022, requested $400-something thousand in funding, came back in 2023 with the increased price. We funded another $500,000. So for it to be being redesigned, we'll have to have our third-party engineers review the plans because that's something that we would do to make sure that for everyone, for the city and for FWC, that we're providing a good product. Yeah, it's just
Well,
the time definitely.
And on our point of, our side of the coin, obviously we couldn't say, I think we'd be reckless to say we should go ahead, you know, it says 1.4 million, we got 950,000, we didn't budget for that.
Well, the low bid at the time was
I mean-
1.08, so I'm not sure where I haven't seen.
I know, it's
anything
gotta go back out, but that's
Yeah.
again, if it rolls in high, then we're sitting here, and I know it's grant, but it's just some stuff we gotta deal with.
Right.
And I'm all for adjusting it, believe me. I mean, I think Mitch has had some good points, we've all looked at it, it can be tweaked, but I don't wanna jeopardize our grant, and, you know, it's once again, we've talked about this enough with y'all, is moving projects forward, and, you know, getting things going when we do these things. I mean, it's just like, you know, I feel like the next thing you know, it's gonna be another 2 years down the road.
Right.
And if that's what it takes, I guess it's what it takes. The only other thing I'm gonna say, I've mentioned it before, and just so we know at this table, you know, I've read FWC's agreement, and it says this boat ramp has gotta be here for 20 years as a public ramp. So we need to address the lease and the ability for it to be public for 20 years. And I'm just gonna say, before I approve any money being spent, that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
That's all I gotta say.
All right.
Can I just add, in the 5 years I've been administering this grant program, I've never declined anyone their request for additional time for a project, so I wouldn't stress out too much about that timeline. And then all of the projects that we've had that were quoted before COVID and didn't get off of the ground until after prices increased. We've had many projects come back to us and say, hey, we don't have the money to cover the difference. And we've worked with them to reduce the project scope. So if that's something that we need to do to stay inside the current budget, we can do that.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, FWC, thank you for being here today, and thank you for what you're doing with Mexico Beach. Appreciate it. I have, from the beginning, I looked at the mirror image for me never worked. The double and the single, it just never worked for me. So I was always going for the single, and to be able to have the room at the end for loading or unloading, or pulling in or whatever. So my choice would be the 729, which is under the 900. I did have a question on the retainer wall repair. How did we get to that? Did we go underwater and check it? Did we? How's the assessment done?
We were given a FEMA damage description and dimensions, a FEMA DDD, where someone had gone out. I'm not sure if they went underwater or not, or if that was a visual inspection where they just walked around. Elizabeth and I did go out there one afternoon and just verify the damage locations, and I think I can't remember if there was 12 damage locations, that we identified 11, or maybe we identified 12 and there was only 11 listed. But as far as the actual repairs, I mean, the talk was to put a new seawall in front of that existing seawall. And then if there's anywhere that there's sidewalk or promenade repairs that are needed because of sand that has washed out, to put that back in place and repair those sidewalks. That should be a cost savings as far as just putting a new wall in front of the existing damaged wall. And so if there's funding for that in the grant, then of course we can try to include that in the grant language. but we won't know until we go out to bid, of course.
Did you say you went and looked at it, the seawall?
Elizabeth and I did. We walked around and took some pictures of the areas with the holes that we could identify. Now, of course, there could be some beneath. I don't know if someone has dove and taken a look at it.
Most of the damage was in the front up here where you dock and Island. That's where they unloaded and did most of the damage, was where we're gonna replace and put a.
Right. There was quite a bit over here, and then up through here there was some, and it looks like maybe someone had tied up and they were
That's
hitting
where
the
you
wall.
put it.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
I can jump in on this real quick. Southeastern Consulting Engineers, SCE, did come out and do their engineering inspection, but it was just above the water line. And it's that identified the areas that are in most need of repair.
Yeah, now we're dealing with two different animals. I mean, one is the boat ramp and the grant, and then the other we've set aside money to fix. And we've been able to say, FWC says if there is funding left, but it looks like it's gonna be minimal to address any of our repairs, but we do have money set aside. But, so we have two things going on here. One is the boat ramp, getting it, that's what we're here for.
All right, any others at the table?
Just, going back to the seawall, would it be practical to maybe hire a person who could dive below the level? And then if they said, well, it's okay, that could save us a lot of money, not
Of course,
to do that
absolutely.
repair.
Yep, to know what we're dealing with, if it's gonna be more or less, or if everything's visible, then
Because we're just
absolutely.
looking above that area.
Yep, I agree. It would be very helpful.
Okay.
And that would, FWC, that's, if we sit here and we say, okay, let's go ahead and go with the single, you're looking at $729, but if we have them go in and look at the bottom and there's another $100,000 that costs.
Well, you have a $986,000 grant.
Thank you.
So one more thing too, I mean, if there is a little bit of play on the money there, I think what Rock said about the, as you're coming down with your boat, there's a little bit of a dip. Would there be any way that could possibly fit into the expense to redo that so it's not a dip? Because that is a problem for a lot of boaters. Would that be something we could evaluate for?
I wrote that down and I'll
Okay.
swing by there when I leave and
Okay.
we'll see if we can include that in the design. We weren't aware that was an issue, but if it's something we can put in there, then we will see what we can do.
Sure.
You agree?
Can I ask? Sorry, just to clarify, FWC is okay with the plans as permitted, because you had mentioned something about you might have to reevaluate the grant award based on what we were doing.
Well, we definitely will have to reevaluate it because it's going to have to go through an internal review process at FWC to amend the grant language, which means it has to go back through my legal office, it has to go through my COO, and if you come to me and say, we want to do the single lane and we want to address some of the seawall repairs and make the slope of the ramp consistent throughout, and I say, that sounds great to me, let's do it. Haley and I draft the amendment, route it internally, and it gets to my COO, and he says, why are we giving them the same amount of money for less return? Then we have to address that. That has only happened once in my 5 years, but it was recently. So there's a possibility that it wouldn't be approved.
Okay, thank you.
That time? How you doing?
Good.
Ma'am, I'm glad you come. Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm glad. 5 years ago, after I got on council, you could park 30 boats at the boat ramp. Poor St. Joe couldn't give us 3 acres. We got rock and now we can, and with the 30 boats, you had to park all the way out toward 98. Now we park over 100 boats at tournament times and during the snack season. Now we can park, and we have no problem now about getting up, and we hope to get another acre of land from St. Joe Company so we can park. That's our biggest problem is parking during the terms and during snack season. To me, I think we need to leave it just the way it is. They did it for a reason. The canal, the park on the little lane over there, I was under the impression that was gonna be for jet skis, small boat. They're gonna talk about they can't back in there to it, but I thought it was, and the handicapped people, and we do have handicapped people that come boat. It takes them a while, and that'd be a good, perfect place to put them over there right by themselves, and the help they needed to give them the water. And changing it, to me, is, the council we had before authorized, and we went through the FWC, and I've talked to the FWC people, game boards.
Your local officers?
Yes. And they are in agreement with the expansion of the 3 lanes, just like we agreed to. There's a reason why we did it. We did it because it backs up. So, and now the council wants to change it to 1 lane or 2 lane. And I see the reason why they want to take the money and spend it somewhere else. But you can really see the holes in the side. And most of the holes, where I looked at a year or so ago, is up there where you launch your boat at. There's a few on the side you can really see them. But what happened, the barges come up there to unload the debris out of the canal, and they hit against the seawall and busted. So I'm for leaving it just like it originally was, the original 3 lanes, take our money from the FWC and move it forward. As quickly as possible, let's don't kick the can back up, let's go forward.
I might just add to that, I don't wanna, I hate to touch the grant. I mean, I definitely want to move forward. It sounds like it's gonna take some time, but the only thing I'll say, Mr. Smith, is it's the $500,000. Is it really gonna be 1.4? I mean, I guess we'll just have to put it out there for bid, because it's automatically, I would say, let's stay with it. I mean, because I'm getting a vibe from her that this is gonna take, it's gonna take a while. It can happen, but we could lose the funding altogether, and that's a big.
That is definitely not our goal.
I know it's not your goal.
FWC isn't able to reallocate these funds to another project, so
Okay.
my personal feeling is that I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that the city
Okay.
benefits from the grant. It doesn't benefit us or any other potential recipients of this funding. If the funding doesn't wind up with the city of Mexico Beach, it goes back to the legislature. We don't get it back to give to another project. So my intention is to make sure they all receive it, whether you stick with the plan that you have now or if it needs to change, whatever works out best for the city is really my goal.
Well, we would like to keep it budget, right? I mean, I'm speaking for one person here.
And you have, like, I think we've been back 3 times to you for the original 3 times, and you have granted it each time, and the longer we wait, the more the price goes up, and we're gonna come begging again.
Are you telling us there's a chance that if we get this bid for the original design and it comes in, that FWC's might willing possibly to fund that difference? In a quickly.
The city, not quickly, no sir. The city would have to come back and request the additional funding again for a 3rd time, and I do not serve on the evaluation committee myself, but I believe that they may be less inclined to award it a 3rd time. Plus, we've already funded the design of the project, so yeah, luck will run out eventually.
Yeah, the single ramp solution is not adding any other things to do. I mean, we're doing the repair and we're putting in the single lane. We're not asking for anything else. There was a suggestion to maybe try to repair a small dip in the thing. If we have to ignore that, let's ignore it. But there's really no change, and you're looking at double the price, one versus the other. The mirror image is double the price.
Yeah, just the sheer change has just gotta go back through the.
Right, it has to be amended so that
It has to go back through.
whatever we wind up paying you for has to match the contract language so that it'll be reimbursable.
And we're at your mercy. I mean, we're taking your lead here. I mean, is this look, if we go for a single lane at 726?
I'm comfortable with the single lane and using the remaining funding to address some of the seawall repairs. I'm comfortable with that. Like I said, 5 years I've been doing this, we've amended many projects, and only one time have I ever had the approvers after me decline to move forward with a change to a project.
Okay,
So,
based on that, I'm at the table, we're at the table, there's no more questions. Is there a motion to move forward?
I would like to make a motion to move forward and approve the single lane addition.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Let me take a vote, please.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes?
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate your time.
You good?
They just brought it up. I made
We'll go ahead and move on to the Parker Park amphitheater design.
So, Emily with Anchor, we decided to go design build on the amphitheater at Parker Park. That was just to capitalize on some of the cost savings we could see there. So we're putting together a design criteria package to put that out to bid, so bidders could know an idea of what you all are looking for the amphitheater. We need to nail down some of the scope of what you might want, so we don't get completely different bids coming in with, one bidder's looking at curved roofs, one's looking at flat roofs or metal roofs versus, shingled roofs. Do you want steps out front, a wall in the back? Just something to guide the bidders and give them some direction when they're putting their bids together. What we could also do is, give them some basics, what materials you want, what you want it to look like, and then have them put in their bid some additive alternates that say, how much would it cost if we decided to add brick or stone to the posts, or how much would it cost if we, instead of a flat roof, did a curved roof, and then when the bids come in, you could take a look and say, do we really want to spend another X amount of dollars to have it curved, or are we fine with a flat roof? We really just need some direction on what you think you might want. We put some examples in there for you to look at to see, the difference in designs you can get. There's some really basic, more stick-built, and then there's obviously some nicer designs. So.
Okay. Julie's going to go ahead and show a couple of the pictures there. If you just take a minute to take a look at it in the audience. There's probably about 6 or 7 of them, I think. You had one there that showed placement, where it's placed at, which is basically currently where it's at, right? Where the pallets are at.
Here's the playground.
Wood pallets.
It's where the existing stage is, just
Right.
slightly bigger.
Have you guys done any boring or anything there to see if it's,
We did some geotech.
everything's good for that?
The soils aren't great, but we'll just have to build that into the design criteria package and let them know, this is what the soil conditions look like when they bring on their structural engineer for the foundation. They just need to take a look at that and make sure they build the foundation and design it as it should be. It's not the best soils, but we've seen worse.
Any comment from anybody in the audience about it? Yes, sir, come on up.
Kurt Werfel, Mexico Beach resident. Thanks for the hard work on the gazebo, or concert hall, whatever you're gonna call it. I think we've got a space, a park, and we're trying to fill it. And I'm not sure we need to build another structure like this when we've got a gazebo right next to El Governor that could hold a band, that could play music out to people sitting on the beach. A much more beautiful location and no mosquitoes. I went about plus a month ago to a Mexico Beach concert, good concert. Mosquitoes were ravenous. Suggestion, you know, a mosquito abatement before any event happens there. But again, I think we've got a park that we're trying to figure out what to do. I'm going to throw out something completely out of left field. I mentioned it once months and months ago, and that's a public pool. Maybe it's not in the budget to even consider right now, but a public pool in that space is something that'd be unique for all those that don't have a pool in Mexico Beach. I wrote down some quick bullet points. A freshwater pool for Mexico Beach residents that do not have a pool in their yards, a resource for children to learn how to swim, Red Cross certified, high school job employment opportunities, lifeguards, snacks and drinks concession stand operations, no alcohol, a possible social magnet for local Mexico Beach adult residents to gather as a community. It would probably be the largest freshwater pool between Panama City and Apalachicola, if not further east. Further magnet, I'll give you some notes, Tammy, you don't have to write it all down. A magnet for further out-of-town tourism. Could be a revenue generator to cover most all costs of operations via summer passes for Mexico Beach resident owners, 1 week passes for renters, higher daily passes for out-of-towners, 1 day passes, multiple swimming lesson sessions across the summer. What I've experienced at a town was that they had 3 swimming lessons sessions. Possible additional revenue opportunity via simple restaurant trailer hookups along the peripheral that the city would license for the pool season. If that happens to be really successful, then maybe look at permanent structures. The biggest challenge is, will the space hold a pool and the mosquitoes? You're going to need mosquito abatement. The place is just incredible. That's it. Thanks for the opportunity to submit the idea.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? That's it.
Rock Creek MB. Whatever you decide to put there, keep it simple. I mean, I've been at it for music at the park, it's great. My biggest concern is when you look at everything, I know parking's always an issue, but the size of your parking lot versus what's there for everything else, it pretty much, the parking lot seems to overwhelm the whole park. And you have, what, twice a month, you have the flea market come up there and the farmer's market and everything else. So you kind of need some room to put all that stuff there too. So you might want to go back and just look at the parking lot some. But I mean, having something out there, just something simple, cover it up, so you know when the band's playing, which is like, what, 5 times I think they do it. And other venues, just like the Christmas thing coming up, you know, use the stage up there and stuff. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just something nice looking. But go back and look at the parking though, because that might be an issue when the farmer's market comes up and they set everything up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, come on up.
I just have a question for the council, Jim Bush. Is the city addressed asking Gulf County if they can use the Veterans Memorial Park for such a thing?
Not that I know of.
Sure save a lot of money. And they allow anybody to come in there as long as it's not fundraising. Thank you.
John Harrell, 43 First Street, last house in Bay County. I have a few family members that are in the music business, music degrees. I've been to a few amphitheaters. What I've noticed, and they tell me if it's a curved structure, a little smaller, bigger going out, LA Bowl, Wolf Trap in Virginia, been to a couple of those places. You want that curvature to amplify the sound. Whether you have something in the back or not, you'll have to get sound engineers to figure out, you know, if you got to block it off to do it, because I think that's the biggest thing. If we're going to do something like this, make sure the sound goes out. Flat roofs, square rectangulars, I don't think we'll get, and I don't know the cost, so you'll have to look into that. But you want to get your sound, you go to the Washington DC, Congress, the Dome, you can sit in certain places and you can hear somebody way over there. It's the curvature that pushes the sound out. So if you're gonna make a decision on that, kind of keep that in mind. You may want to talk with some sound engineers or before we do something like that to get the most bang for our buck. Thank you.
John. John makes a good point, and I think that there's been some, maybe Linda could, sound can add a little bit to that also when we come to the table. Alex, one?
Alex Hogan, 7th Street. Gosh, it was great comments. I agree with everything said, especially Rock there. I don't think we need to get too elaborate. We spend a lot of money, and I see a lot of architect being built unnecessarily in most constructions. The idea is great. We need it. We do need the amphitheater, but I think it doesn't need to be very fancy. More of a cover. I think it needs to be elevated up so it kind of separates the band or the performers from the audience. But other than that, I do agree with Rock. Tone it down a little. Space is an element for vendors and whatever. Thank you.
Still gonna make the dance sound better though. Anybody else in the audience? Do you have any comment from any audience? No, you're good? You're good? Okay. We're at the table.
So I thought a good resource to go to would be somebody that's in a band. So Greg Davis is a resident here in Mexico Beach, and he's with Bad Decision Band. He has performed here in our park before. So he had some great ideas, you know, to project the sound out. He said it really should be something that has a good curvature. It should have a good tilt out. You know, he suggested that the size that we're talking about is 15 by 30 feet. He said that would be good. He feels like it should be smaller in the back and bigger in the front to project the sound. He said the location that we currently have would be beneficial if we could angle it a little bit more to the right. Another factor for them is the sun and the wind as when they're performing, so that would eliminate some of the wind and some of the sun. And his suggestion, example J and D would be good because they are very angled. Some of the other ones that he felt would not be good, they would not project the sound out, it would trap the sound, for example C, G, and E. So, you know, just something to consider. But I think going to the source of a person who would actually perform there would be important to get his input.
Yeah, I just don't think that if it's, the band is called Bad Decision, we don't
I mean, it's gonna get down to pricing. You gave us these examples. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but are these all generally, have you seen the price structure on these? I mean, they're all generally about the same? 'Cause you've asked us, the task is to try to pick the design.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we're in a budget here. I don't know if
We've
it's-
tried to look all over as far as pricing. I mean, you can get some amphitheaters that are up to $250 to $300 a square foot. I mean, maybe we'd find some much lower. Of course, it is gonna depend, you know, curved roof is probably gonna be a bit more, but I think it might be important for the sound amplification. It really is just gonna depend on, like, you'll look at some of them as well, and there's the wall in the back, walls on the side, steps in the front. The more you add those, of course, the more it's gonna be.
Yeah,
but-
so the task order, you're looking for us to confirm a design to move forward.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be confirm a design. Is there anything that it absolutely, you know, we've got to have it in the design criteria. You know, we don't want someone to come in and just give you a flat roof. It's rectangle, like, you know, we just said it maybe smaller in the back, larger in the front. Is there any criteria that absolutely we have to include so the bidders know? Otherwise, you know, you might get some that come in with a rectangular layout, some that are smaller in the back, larger in the front, that sort of thing. We just need, what are the things that you have to have?
I think the curvature and the tilt were the most that the band leader emphasized, Craig Davis.
and then the smaller in the back and, yeah, okay.
So is there anything there that jumps out at anybody that they would think they would like to see in that area? Then we can do some costing from there.
Which one do you like, Judy?
Which one do I like?
You
I like this one, but because I like the wall behind it, I thought it'd be really cool to have
This
a little
one,
one there.
you say this one, that, this
D.
This
D.
one, D.
D.
But I do also kind of like that this one has walls on the side too. So, but I don't like the front of that one as much, so. If I had to pick one, I'd take that one. That's me.
I had D, and then I also had H, basically because of cost.
What do you got?
That was H, so. Cost would really drive it.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Any, did you pick anything, Jason?
Well, I mean, I liked one, but, or not one, that would be A, but that was, you know, I understand now. Just had a good look, I mean, you know, D is good, and actually, you know, like you said, H, but that was for probably cost, but now that we've talked, I mean, I understand the curvature and all that, if we're gonna put one up, we wanna get, you know, get our max. Because that's what it's for.
Should we look at costs on a B and maybe an H or J or something in that area? Give them a couple of options.
Jay was also one of the ones that Craig Davis in the Bed Decisions band said would be a good choice as well. He said we might want to consider like fold downs on the side to protect them from the sun. That might be less expensive.
He did say H?
I'm sorry, Jay.
J.
J.
I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, D and J were his preference for the curvatures and the tilt.
So it sounds like B and J. If you look at B and J?
D or B?
D and J.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
D and J, I'm sorry.
Okay,
D and J.
so maybe,
Do you need the council to specify materials or lighting or anything like that at this stage?
yes, we can look at materials. Yeah, some of these are metal, some of them are treated wood framed. We could always see if, you know, we could get a pricing on metal, or if they can do an ad alternate and say, what would it cost to do the wood instead? If there's a preference, you know, let me know now.
Wouldn't metal be a concern because of our climate? That would be a rust concern. Would it, Jason? If we went with
I mean, if they treat,
Yeah, I mean, the frame itself might not, I mean, I would consider, I mean, if we're going for the amphitheater, you know, that underneath wood, I mean, that's obviously gonna give some sort of sound. But you know, we just gotta start getting some figures.
Right.
I mean, it's really just gonna get down to.
Right.
We've got a budget, and the sooner we get that, cause it's another project we just approved, and we wanna start moving things forward. We wanna just go spend money frivolously, but
Right.
we've gotta get the ball.
agreed.
We just
Well,
need a yay or an A, so let's.
we can take a look at pricing on D and J.
Okay.
And what those materials are, and just to give you an idea, we just, you know, amphitheater designs that you can have the Taj Mahal, or you can have something really basic. So we're just
Yeah.
trying to get an idea of, you know, where.
Let's give it
where
those
one-
two and then.
Okay, D and J.
Yeah.
Okay, we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On the Parker Park thing,
Yeah.
with the restrooms,
Can you just get those to the council and get their input on it first before we go over that? Moving into restrooms.
okay,
Get copies for the council, give it to them and let them get it back to the city administrator.
okay.
All right, we're moving on to ordinance that we are gonna table, basically, right? We're gonna table that, the ordinance, 848 on, peddling, from the council. I can tell you what they came back with and gave the city administrator is we don't want any peddling, period. So we tried to going with just the exemptions. And basically, the exemption would be for political reasons, for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things like that in that area. But we found out from our attorney that there is a state statute that 501(0)22 and 21 that basically says we have to have some type of licensing system. So we're going to look into that. So we're going to table that until our next meeting. That good, Councilman? Good.
Can I, before we move on, is there, to put you on the spot, is there any sort of requirement for what we can and can't require for licensing? So for example, or for permitting, if we were to come back and say there's $1 million bond required, is that excessive and the state would say, no, you can't do that?
Well, as long as we don't conflict with 501, 021, and 22, then we should be fine. Now, there might be an argument that someone could make that kind of fee would be excessive. You know, your current fee is much, much lower. You know, I wasn't here when the original ordinance was drafted. That ordinance sort of had some requirements that didn't go far as the draft I had. But if it seems to me that because you've got a legislative enactment to allow for door-to-door sales, you can then take your ordinance and clarify, if you want to say, what that would look like.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that may be why your original ordinance limited it to 2 land use categories and did some other things.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we good? We're going to table it next meeting? Okay. Discussion on November the 26th and December the 22nd council meetings. In the past, they've normally canceled them. Is that true?
Well, Tuesday on Thanksgiving.
What did they do?
I will definitely be out for Thanksgiving for sure.
So that's the 26th. Right?
So it's up to everybody.
So that would be our next meeting. Is that something we want to cancel?
Yeah, everybody who's gonna be here. We don't know about Tim. Yeah. So if we had enough, we could be here. I'd say go, if not.
Yeah.
If you, who's gonna be here? You not.
I'll be here, that's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We don't know about Tim, and for sure you can't.
I'm out.
You're gone.
I'll be gone.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm planning on being with my family out of state.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna think tentative. I'm gonna be here, I think I'm gonna be tentative.
So it's probably only 2 out of the 5, possibly. We don't know about Tim.
What about you, Mac? Are you saying?
I will not.
You will not, no.
Mr. Smith and I can just take care of business that day.
We don't need
Exactly.
it. You gonna be here?
Absolutely.
Well, if Tim's gonna be here, I mean, I don't know what you gonna put on the agenda.
Give it to Tim Lindman and find out.
Or can we move the day to the before or something, or what's the
Maybe
date?
Monday before or something like
Yeah.
that? Or Friday?
It'll be like, I think I'm
We
leaving
know
on
that.
Sunday is the latest I'm leaving.
When are you leaving?
I believe Sunday is the latest I'm out of here. I'm playing it by ear as far as what, but it's probably gonna be Sunday. I mean, not Friday before, if we need to have a meeting, I'm all for it. But that would be next Friday.
All right, let me get,
You'll get with,
let's get with Tim, find out what his is, and then we'll make a decision on the 26th, and we'll email everybody, let them know from the city administrator what we plan on doing. Okay, and that's for the 26th meeting. So then there's December 24th.
We always didn't have it in December.
Cancel?
So
I'm gonna be here, but I mean, we ain't never had one.
has it been usual just to have 1 meeting in the month of December?
Yes.
After Christmas, okay.
That's,
Yeah, if we need one, we could always throw one in.
Yeah.
yeah. That's it.
For right now, for the 24th, cancel.
Yeah.
We good?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to citizens' comments. It looked like we lost them all.
You didn't lose me.
We're a tough group. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Logan. Has the council sent a response to DOT regarding DOT's proposed trail through Mexico Beach? Have you answered them in any way?
No.
Do you plan to?
Yes.
Okay, the date for public comment closes in 8 days. Do you plan to get it in?
I have that down, yeah.
And what will your response be?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, we're trying to find room to just burn everything right now, so we'll get to it.
Well, let me give you a little information that I came up with. This past week, I spoke to 2 property owners on Highway 98 about it. And we walked quite a bit of that. I didn't walk, but they walked and I rode. That is a 16-foot strip. It's a 4-foot grassy strip from the edge of the asphalt and then 12-foot concrete pad for the path, 12 feet. Our current sidewalk is 5 feet, so that gives you an idea. 12 feet is more than double. And this property owner pointed out to me, she said, look at our driveways. Since the hurricane, we have all put our landscaping back down to 98 because, you know, their landscaping has to do with DOT's regulations. She said, if you bring that in from the edge of the asphalt, and she stood at the 16-foot mark, we got a tape measure, measured it, she stood, she said, look, almost everybody on either side of 98, and we don't yet know which side it's going to go on if it goes in, almost everybody is going to lose almost all of the landscaping. Goodness.
I'm not coming out of that little woman.
The landscaping, the palm trees, all those expensive pavers, all of that's going to get ripped out. All the way down.
It's on the right of way, that could happen.
It's on DOT's right of way, yes, we know that. But the landscaping has all been put in down to the asphalt, if you will look and see. Parking will disappear. The stores, the businesses that have parking in the front, a great deal of that parking will disappear. You need to look at this because every single property owner on whichever side of 98 will be adversely affected. You need to pay a great deal of attention to this. And on 15th Street, in the right-of-way, is up and down both sides of 15th is the city's stormwater ditch, big ditch that we've got back there. That 16 feet will cover almost the entire ditch all the way down on whichever side they put it. So there are major, major concerns with this. Then you have to ask the question, why Mexico Beach? Because the Sun Trail, while it's this grandiose state plan to connect the entire state with this trail, there's nothing for 100 miles or more in either direction with this state trail to hook to.
Isn't it out of Wacala Springs has it, right?
That's over 100 miles away, and there's no way under the sun that Tyndall Air Force Base is going to allow a trail to come through the Air Force Base to hook on that side with Mexico Beach, much less get over the East Bay. So why Mexico Beach at this point in time? But you have to look at how this is going to affect the property owners, and 16 feet is a whole lot, even though it is DOT right-of-way. What are you going to say to the people when all that landscaping and all that money, excuse me, is ripped out? So y'all need to be very aware of this. I see absolutely no benefit to the city or to the residents, and the time to get the comments in are right now.
Did you respond to that email that I sent you on DOT? Did you respond to it? It asked for citizens' comments also.
Yes. Yes, and not just to DOT. Yes, not just to that website. I sent it to a number of people.
Would you mind sharing it with the city?
As soon as I can get a new computer, because mine has crashed, and I have to go transfer everything over to my computer. So yeah, I'll send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could speak to that just one second. We're currently in the virtual, I just pulled up the project online. We're currently in the virtual project update. The public hearings are going to happen mid-2025. And then the study is going to end, the study itself, the study portion of it, is going to end mid-2026.
I have been, let me add to that, I have been involved and written about several of DOT's projects down in Gulf County, and once they get their teeth into something, the sooner you let them know of any objections, the better, because by the time they get to their so-called public comments that are really just pro forma dog and pony shows, it's set in stone. So the quicker you get in any comments, the better.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Yes, sir, come on up.
Kurt Worthall, resident. I haven't been listening to this train of thought very long. Is there a certain minimum width that the DOT is requiring for the trail? I mean, could it just be a bike and walking trail? Does it have to be for golf carts or wider?
It's not for golf carts.
Good.
They just made it for bikes and walking and stuff like that, but they're the ones that said 16 feet.
Another bluebird thought out there is bring it on the inland side of the sand dune in a certain part of Mexico Beach. It'd be in front of the final residential area. It'd be for bike and walking only. You'd probably need a street sweeper with a brush on it after a big storm, but you'd have a beautiful path right there near the ocean. Probably be on this side of the bridge, and I don't know if it'd be after, but rather than take up everyone's land, it's done on the landscaping. It's an alternative. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else on the audience? Yes, sir, come on up.
Jim Bush again. Begin with, I'd like to ask for more than 3 minutes, because what I've got to say, in part, I want to make sure it's part of the public record in accordance with Florida statutes, rather than just having a minute say, Mr. Bush commented on X.
Is this something you want to write to us?
Well, it's something I've already written to you partly.
You want to let us read it and then we can get back to you, or is it something you want to do?
Something I want to inform the council of and the audience of about the history of what's been going on. As far as comp plan, the LDC and stuff like that. Because apparently the council's not familiar with the 2018 LDC and how we arrived at it.
Yeah, go ahead. You can start.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to, again, tell you how much I appreciate the manager and the council, the way you guys are using critical thinking to arrive at your decisions. I haven't seen that in the past, and I'm sure myself and other people are highly appreciative of that. And the second thing, in reviewing council meetings in the past, on the 10th of September, Councilman Wallace expressed concern about overgrown property, and the city said they'd address it, and I'd like to ask what's been done along those lines.
Yeah, just, you know, there's been things done. There's been a meeting between Port St. Joe and our code enforcement to go over how we do it and what, you know, what things are needed as far as notifications and stuff like that. So we're trying to get a procedure into place.
Well, I think that the notification is already covered in both the comp plan and the LDC. And the issue in the past has been, and again, I was fired over this as special master, because I reported to well, not really, to the city manager, problems with the code enforcement officer, and pointed out specific instances. She wasn't supervised, she wasn't trained, and I was fired over the fact that I said, you know, she's not doing her job. Numerous citizens complained about it. I pointed out specific instances, 15 different city instances, specific instances to the manager, and apparently nothing was done about it. Everything is laid out on what needs to be done. It just needs to be done. And Kathy's a good person, but she's really kind-hearted. She doesn't want to hurt anybody. But somebody in that job doesn't have to be bloodthirsty, but they have to do their job.
At some point, it comes to turning it over to the city, and the city taking the responsibility of mowing it on a monthly basis.
Well, if the code enforcement officer, the way that it's written up in the comp plan and the LDC, does what she's done, it passes to the city to begin with. But she has to do the notifications in accordance with the LDC and the comp plan, and then follow up when the changes are not made.
And we've done that to a certain point to where it still doesn't get mowed. I mean, this process is 3 months, and you have lawns that are growing and growing and growing. They don't get mowed.
Has anything gone to the special master since he was fired?
In the past, yes. They're not gone anywhere.
Well, wait a minute. He can fine the owner of the property X number of, I don't have the stuff, well, maybe I do have it with me.
So if I can, may I?
Yeah.
All right, so the challenge that we have currently is that there is no clearly defined or written procedure for handling issues. So step 1 is notification of the violation. Step 2 is if we need to go through the hearing process, and then step 3 is the abatement process. So what I'm putting together is that process, essentially a checklist. These are the items that we need to hit, so that as each of these complaints come in, we can make sure we're treating each complaint fairly, equally, and moving through the process as we need to move through the process. So we did some research with Port St. Joe with their code enforcement, just to get some best practices, and then we're putting together this program. So I hear what you're saying. I do. Give me a little bit more time, and we'll have a concrete answer.
Yeah, I think if you will go to the city records, 4 different issues came before me when I was master, and they were all resolved. Now, I don't know what's happened since then, but the process worked the way it was implemented. We just need to make sure that the process followed through.
Up and that's what we're doing. Absolutely, I hear you.
Jim, I would like to say this past week I did drive through the town. I spent about 3 hours. I went up and down every street in this town. I took many pictures, and I made a list of the lots that need attention, and there are many. And so I think that might be a start to have a list. And obviously the systems are not working that we have in place, and so I think new ideas certainly are welcome.
Yeah, I would say one of the problems in the past is that there was no supervision of the code enforcement officer, Chris. To give you all a little background, the city put out, a job notice. Kathy applied, they accepted her, and then she was just given the job. This is your job, do it. There was no training involved or anything. Any bit of training she got, I spent 4 hours working with her. I developed the process, gave her checklists and everything else, told her how to set up her files. And as a result, nothing, again, I would say she's not doing her job. She didn't do her job back then. But part of the problem was the city never trained her. The city never told her what it was she was supposed to do. And then when I went to the manager and told him what was going on, the whole entire council came down on me without giving me a chance to defend myself. And then he flat out lied to the council, telling there's never been complaints. I personally, they're gone now. But I knew 3 people in the audience out here who personally had made complaints to him about her, and he lied to the council saying nobody had ever complained.
Okay, so let's move on from what your goal is here. You want to tell us that there's an ordinance that tells us
there's
exactly
an ordinance
what to do,
that
and
works if it's
and
implemented.
we're not following it, so
Yes.
we need to follow it. Okay,
Yes.
what else you got?
Okay, that was basically it. No, one other thing. Let me explain the process on the development of the last comp plan. We called a town hall meeting and invited everybody in Mexico Beach to participate. As far as I know, Lisa's the only person that's here that was that attended. There were 45, roughly 40 or 45 people there. And we came up with a vision of Mexico Beach and what we thought the city should look like. Passed that on to the council, they approved it, and that's what the comp plan was developed on. And that's what they approved before it went to the state. And my position is, I don't think, with all the growth that's going on, that vision is currently being followed. And I think the council needs to do actually needs to have another town hall meeting, which is citizen-led. And as a result of what that new vision come up with, is either accept the vision the way it is, or change it to what they think it needs to be, because again, the comp plan needs to follow the vision, and it's currently not. And I can give you specific examples if you want.
Okay. What else?
That was it.
Thank you.
I know you're tired of me right now.
Pardon me?
I know you're tired of me right now. I don't mean to be a pain in the ass, but I can go on for a year.
I really wish the council would meet would let the citizens talk about our employees. I think if we have a problem with one of our employees, you need to see our city manager. We're supposed to stand behind our employees. And for somebody, I'm not saying that he's right or wrong, but I don't think we should do that. For me, I like Kathy Lyons.
Agree, we should try to keep that as confidential as possible.
Let's let him go with Mr. Truitt. and
We'll
let
go
him
with
act.
Mr. Truitt, yeah. I agree. All right, any other citizens' comments? Move to the table, mayor comments. Clean and drain procedure before and from scheduling. Tommy, how are we doing on that?
We are making progress. What we went around and looked at the other day, Mayor,
I want to know about the procedure, not what you're doing. What do we have running?
on the what now, I'm sorry?
The last meeting that we had, we asked that we get a procedure of how we were gonna, what we were gonna do prior, pre-storm.
Oh, I'm working on that
When do we think we're gonna get it?
by the next meeting.
By the next meeting, so 2 more weeks,
Yes, sir.
we'll have a written procedure, okay? That's the only thing I had, mayor comments, staff comments. I'm sorry, did I pass the
Yes, you
council? I'm
did.
sorry, guys. Council comments.
I just wanted to remind everybody about the turkey trot. That's gonna be on Thanksgiving Day, November 28th. The race starts at 8 Central Time, and that's under the Palms Park on the 7th Street entrance. Late registration is still available at El Governor on Wednesday, November 27th from 10 till 6, and the fee is $35. And then the morning of the race, everybody will meet at the park to start the race. And then, of course, this is one of our main fundraisers to help pay for the 4th of July fireworks, so it's really important.
Yeah, Parker Park.
Oh, it's under the Palms Park, on the 7th Street side is where we're meeting.
Ms. Howell, I will tell you, you did a wonderful job at the
How much, right?
much. There was a lot of people there, and you was really very well organized. I was really impressed at the dogs and the people that you had there.
It was a lot of
You
fun.
did a lot of work. Somebody did.
A lot of folks, there was many hands in there like
Pretty-
that.
pretty in the-
But
in
we've
the
been
loop.
asked to do it next year, so.
And you need to ease on down to the Humane Society and get your.
No. I ain't getting no dog, but
Yeah,
I,
you good, you can leave, go get one.
but I really want to put, that's a asset to this community, for you to bring the people together. Usually, and I was going, the intent for you to have something in the park, the movie in the park, if you can get his attention, ask him.
Lieutenant, we have a question for you, please.
Yep.
Movie in the park?
Movie, yeah, we're fixing to get that under control and pick out a movie. Somebody was making a suggestion on, Die Hard, and it's being a Christmas movie and not Tacoma Tower, but we had a lot of discussion over that. So,
I think that's it at the table, in staff comments? Attorney? Nothing? City Administrator?
Yes, sir. We have a little bit going on. Julie, would it be possible for you to pull up our website on the overhead? Okay, while she's doing that, we went through with AvCon, the mayor, and Tommy to take a look at some of the areas that need immediate attention as to stormwater issues. We identified the top two priorities are 4th Street from 98 down to Florida, and then Colorado Avenue.
Drive.
Pardon?
Drive.
Drive?
Colorado Drive.
Drive, I'm sorry. The canal that crosses. We were able to, Tommy was able to get his guys out there. That canal is now completely cleaned out. We identified, or he was able to find a sediment that was probably blocking the pipe. So we addressed that immediately. And we're hoping, just based on looking at it, that should help alleviate some of the Colorado issues, or the issues around that location. Prevent some of the water from backing up. AvCon also talked with us about some things we can do in the canals with the outflow pipes. There are drain systems that we can put in that would allow more drainage prior to a storm event. We try to clean out those canals so they can accept more water, and we're looking at those. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I asked Julie to pull this up, if you look at the top of our website, top menu on the far right hand side, there's a new tab called Projects. If you click into that, it's going to give kind of a high level overview of the existing projects that we have currently. This is not future plan. And if you go down to the bottom and click on the most recent, keep going. You have a lot of projects. There you go. If you click on the 1110 update, this actually takes you to a spreadsheet with much more information. So it talks about where we are in the process. It talks about the funding sources. The final column on there is the latest update. So as we chat with the vendors or grantors or contractors, we're putting updates in there. This was put up online just to give residents an idea of where we are in these various processes, as well as to help hold us accountable at the city level. The commission, I can give you this on a regular basis. You can see it online. Mr. Lindeman gets a little bit more information. If you want less information, we can do that, whatever works for you. But I wanted to make sure that we have this information up and online to help answer some of the questions. And then if you hit your back button, Ms. Hewley, and again, if you pull down the government link at the top, there are two new sections. One is the new monthly, or the refreshed monthly newsletter, the Mexico Beach Monthly. And the second one is the Administrator's Weekly Update. Mexico Beach Monthly is something that we're kicking back up again. We had it for quite a while. Once a month, we will create this newsletter to put it online. These are kind of high-level overviews of some of the things that we have going on, or questions that we've been asked, or things that residents need to be aware of. And the plan is also to send this out with the monthly water bills. It's again just another form of communication, letting you know, hey, this is what's going on, this is where your tax dollars are going. The one request that I have for that is photos. We have a beautiful, beautiful community. That photo was actually taken by my son. I had no idea the kid had it in him. But if you have photos of Mexico Beach that you want to share, send those in to me along with a favorite quote, and we'll make sure we include those in the newsletter. My goal is to get the Mexico Beach Monthly out by the 3rd of the month. That's the goal. We're still working at the process. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention from that page, on the government link, is the Administrator Weekly Updates. This will turn into nice to know things for the previous week and upcoming week. So for example, with this last one from last week, I included information on there about the stormwater, the areas that we're looking at, and some of the things that we're doing. This week, I'm most likely going to have something on there about the upcoming Christmas and Thanksgiving events and office closures and things like that. So it's just another quick little blurb. Most of them won't be this in depth, just about weekly important stuff that's coming up in the next week. And with this too, if there's questions if you have any questions, or if there's something you'd like me to include, just shoot an email, and I'll be happy to put that in there. That is all I had.
All right, Chris, I appreciate you doing all that work, and it's obviously from the council constantly telling you that we need to communicate, and
Absolutely.
those are the vessels we need to communicate with our citizens, and I appreciate you putting that together.
Absolutely.
Moving in the right direction. All right, if that is it, a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second it?
Good. Aye, aye.